¿Qué pasa, raza? So today we're back at Marco's shop, and today we have a very special celebrity guest that came down here to visit Marco and see his shop. We actually have Steven Linkus. If you guys know Orly's Lowrider magazine from back in the day, this dude is his family, so you'll get to meet him in just a minute. So everyone, it's a privilege today to have Steven Linkus, who's actually the nephew of Orly's from Orly's Lowriding magazine. And it's funny because I talk to people about that magazine, and some of the youngsters don't know about that magazine, you know, because it was back in the days when it was popular. But to all of us OGs, we know that that's a legendary magazine with a legendary guy. So Steven, man, your uncle was the lowrider guy, man. I mean, tell us about him and tell us about you.
So it's funny you bring that up. So it was actually my dad's first cousin, so I guess it'd be great cousins, but uncle's close enough. But it was ironic in that we were a bunch of poor Chicanos in North Denver. So we didn't have lowriders. There weren't too many lowriders in Denver at all. So if you saw one, you're like, ay Dios, what is that? You know, that's pretty cool. I've seen that in movies. So I'd always hear my family talking about, pues Orlando está ahí con sus lowriders. And I'd always hear about it, and I was like, what are they talking about? Who's got these lowriders? You know, who's Orlando? So finally I asked my dad, I'm like, yo, who are they talking about? And he's like, well, it's my cousin. We grew up together in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and blah, blah, blah. So finally one day, he's like, hey, we're going to California. And you know what this goes. Back in the day, family vacation, you don't got a lot of money, you hop it in a car. Mm-hmm. So you're loading up, and you got a bunch of people in there. Don't smell too good. It's not the best, but you're going to have fun. So we get out to this monster shop. I don't even know what to call it. It's like monstrous. We go in there, and there's all kinds of rims, everything's just hanging. Dudes in there arguing with the people working there, and then he's like, hey, I'm here to see Orly. And they're like, well, who are you? And he's like, I'm his cousin. So they bring him out. Hey, some dude said your cousin, he's here. So Orly comes out and goes, oh yeah, talks to my dad, does this and that. We get a tour around the place. So it was crazy because it was like, you saw this stuff, Lowrider magazine was sitting around, so we would see these rides. We never saw them on the streets. And it's like, dang, we got family that's in this business. We got family that does this stuff. In fact, we got family that everyone knows.
Right.
So it was crazy. So as we walked around, we got to see kind of how he did business, and it was gruff. You got to deal with different people different ways. Some people are real polite. Some people you got to have a little fun with and let them know that this is how business is. So it was really good in that sense. And then it was crazy because then, you know, when I'd go back to Denver and I'd see my friends with you know, Lowrider magazine, then all of a sudden there's Orly's Lowrider. I'm just laughing because I'm just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, have you seen this, bro? Have you seen these magazines? You seen these cars? I'm like, yeah, I've seen them. Then once in a while I'll be like, well, yeah, you know, that's family. They're like, what do you mean that's family? Yeah, that's my dad's first cousin. That's my grandma's brother's kid. So they were like, what? I'm like, yeah. So it was interesting. So just being exposed to that, it was just very different.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, just when I met you, and I don't know how we got into conversation. I think first of all, you know, I see this vato all dressed up, and we're talking our school business stuff, and I think we got comfortable, and all of a sudden that Chicano twang started coming out. You were like, Simone said, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So we got to talking about, you know, you, and then you told me about your uncle. I was, you know, really tripped out. And I think, you know, one of the neat things is to talk about, you got somebody like Orly from back in the day that was doing this stuff, and then we have Marco, who you guys have met a few times through my videos, young guy, you know, getting things done, and if it wasn't for guys like Orly, you know, I mean, we wouldn't be doing this today. But it's neat to see it coming back alive. So I got the opportunity to you know, to work with Marco a few times, and I was telling Steven, I'm like, man, I got this young buck that I'm working with, and he's super talented. He's got all these lowriders, and he's like, you know, late to Kansas, nah, man, I gotta see this to believe it. So believe it or not, this dude flew in all the way from Virginia out here. We got to hang out a little bit earlier, and he's like, I gotta go check out this shop. So I brought him down here to meet Marco, and Marco, you're doing it up, man. I mean, tell us some of the things that you're working on now, like some of the projects that you're trying to do. I know you told me you have a plasma table coming up.
Yeah, so your car came back. We're gonna update it with telescopics right now. On that side, I have a 64 Impala that I'm working on from frame up. I just finished reinforcing it. So that one I'm doing a full from ground up, you know what I mean, besides the paint and upholstery. So we're putting 4 pumps on that one and 8 batteries, lay and play, a little bit of power.
Right. So, well, it sounds like a lot of power, but
well, yeah. Yeah, it's somewhat of power, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
We're not
right.
putting the piston pump to work.
Right,
We're
right.
hitting bumpers, so.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we do hydraulics here, airbags, lower trucks, lifted trucks, all that. So.
Man, and you know, and I seen some of the fabrication work you do. I saw the S10 that you did. You know, you were telling me that you put some Cadillac trailing arms on there, and then you did the wishbone on there, and it looked like you fabricated that yourself, right?
Yeah, I had to fabricate that because we were on a budget. So I think we put your trailing arms on.
Oh, I know he
the
put
one
my
that we
trailing
took
arms
out
in there.
from this Cadillac. So
Yeah.
so I made that work for him. Yeah, I had to do a lot of adjustments on that
Wow.
chassis and suspension. So
Well, that's crazy, man, to kind of see, you know, the work that you're doing now. You know, I love that people hit me up and want to know more about you, because a lot of people don't realize that you're out here. But, you know, in Kansas City as a whole, we're bringing lowriding back. We're getting ready to launch the Kansas City Lowrider Council with a few different car clubs, where we're going to be connecting all the different lowriders in Kansas City and making sure that we're all connected, you know, locally, but also, you know, nationally, working with folks like Steven. You know, having Steven out here is you know, amazing, because he has the passion for it. He has the history for it. He sees the potential out here in Kansas City, and Marco's showing that we're actually serious about it. So guys, man, it is awesome to have you guys, you know, sit down and chat it up. And I know there's a lot of talking and a lot of catching up that we're going to have to do. And I think a little bit of mentoring that you could do here for my boy over here, Marco, who I think has maybe some questions for you. But thank you guys for being with us today.
No, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And
Yep.
we'll see you guys soon.